Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to an exciting new cast of Sins of a Solar Empire 2. I'm your host, Karaslegacy, as we dig into Game 2 of this Best of 3 series, continuing our coverage of the 4 Power 2 Balance tournament. This is round 2 of the tournament, and depending on how this goes, this could be a deciding match for these players today. In the north side, we have Phoenix and Storm God representing Team Panda. Now this is a switch up from Game 1 where we had Phoenix and Fruitwing play. A reminder that these are 3-player teams, and so it looks like they've brought in a potential ringer into this match. Considering how long the first game ran, it's possible that Fruitwing just needed a break. That game was a tremendously long grudge match. Or perhaps they decide a Visari player might be a bit more advantageous on this map. Their opponents, the winners of the first game, up 1-0. We have Koi as the Advent player with his partner Abby as the Visari. We have Team Suneaters. Now, digging in onto this map, we are going to be playing on Crossfire today. A map that I find quite enjoyable for 2v2 play. It is a very consistent map with pretty much all the positions exactly laid out, very symmetrical map. It does have a very short rush distance between two of the opponents here, but these ice worlds tend to have large amounts of creeps on them, and so often, as you see up here, players often will go around the asteroid belts first before engaging the main players. So that may slow down the rushes a bit. We may see more of an economic play in this game. We'll just have to see. Now, one thing to remind players of today, this match is being played on the new version 1.3. While the tournament started on the previous version, the two teams agreed to run this on the test server containing the latest version. So this is the latest and greatest version of Sins as of the time of this cast. And I'll try to keep you up to date on some of the changes that have happened as we dig into it. One thing I'll notice here is this. With this new version, we do have some new map features. The middle here is a black hole instead of a normal star, in which case you'll see the black hole actually slows down pretty much everything when you're in this area, and except for speed, which is all sped up when you're in the black hole area. Now, if you turn into my cast in the first one, I had mentioned that the black hole effect extends into a jump or two beyond that. That was incorrect. It looks like it is just the black hole itself where that is impacted, and then otherwise the planets around it are normal. All right, let's dig into Koi a little bit, because Koi is doing an interesting play here. So we can follow Koi's fleet, and we're going to, first of all, Koi is actually opened up with a Radiance, which is kind of historically has been off meta for the Advent players. They have been focusing on Raptors quite a bit lately. However, we are seeing somewhat of a shift in the meta with the latest version. The Radiance does seem to be coming back to some prominence in the game, and we'll see if Koi can really push that to victory. So it looks like Koi decided to go ahead and conquer the ice world, just killing the siege crews and then moving on. Taking the asteroid, looked like may have considered a possible aggressive push, but it looks like Koi is actually going to double back. This is interesting. I don't know if this is actually going to work out for him, or if this is actually going to slow down his play, considering he has to double back here. But maybe you want to get some aggressive motion on this asteroid, get it fortified up. We'll have to see. Otherwise, for our Panda team, they're going with the pretty standard Crossfire progression. You normally go through the key asteroids up top, and then we'll collapse down on the ice world once you have kind of built up your forces, and then you'll be able to fortify that ice world. From there, it's really a question mark of whether you push further down into your opponent. The Visari players might consider going into the Ferris world towards the middle, or if you dig into the gas giant, while the gas giant itself is hard to take, there is a very strong derelict that is noted on this world here, which we can see, containing a huge resource pool. So every once in a while, you may see players decide to dig in on this. But knowing these two teams, at least watching their first round, they seem to be fairly aggressive, and I would expect more of a push along this border here before we see any kind of middle shenanigans. We'll see. All right, let's look at how we're progressing tech-wise. We have Koi with standard 1-1 tech for Advent, pretty standard. Avi is also still on 1-1 for Visari, again, very standard. It looks like, okay, we are seeing some early defensors here for Avi with a Devastator and Defensor play. No Desolators today. We have been seeing a wave of Desolator actions in the last version, but looks like Avi has decided to go with a more tried and true strategy for our game today. Moving over to the north side, Phoenix has opened once again with an Akin battleship, which I still find interesting considering the rush distances on this map. But he made it look pretty good, pretty convincing that first game. Has gone for the Akin Cole combination. For a reminder for those of you who are still new to the new version, one of the big changes is the TEC homeworld receives a lot of free levels now in commerce and mining, also a little bit of defense as well. As a result, the TEC and the Advent ecos are significantly faster than they were previously. This allows the TEC to bring up some aggressive strategies that were simply impossible for them before. Seeing these kind of 2-cap openers in the 8 to 12 minute mark used to be near impossible, but now we're seeing it basically become TEC standard meta. And we're already seeing here the two players are setting up what is known as the Rainbow Turret strategy. For those not familiar, the Pronass Miner faction here has the ability to lay out Gauss turrets using influence, and you can place those both on your own and your allies' territory. So we see here the Panda team is setting up Gauss turrets here to fortify this location. This is a pretty tried and true common strategy that you see in team play. But one nerf to that strategy that has occurred, you can see here that whereas before you could put up to 5 of these in a given gravity well, you can now only put 3, and there's a new max count for your empire, the maximum amount of these gas you can have. So while this is still a very strong strategy, it has been nerfed a bit, and we'll see if it really does come into play as this progresses. All right, we can see Storm God looking to, with a large defensor force, focusing on this asteroid. We'll see if he tries to fortify it up or if he is going to, in fact, push a little deeper. We do see Phoenix has moved into Tier 2 tech, getting the freebooters online. This will give him a big surge of troops from the homeworld to, again, refortify this position. It looks like we do see a third capital on the way, with just some basic cobalts and then, of course, the freebooters to reinforce. Storm God is going with a heavy push here, opening up with a large-scale defensors. No second capital ship for the Visari, just pure defensive play. But that will give them the edge in fleet supply early. We are seeing, again, use of the Pronass trips, but no use of the Sea Nanites, which, again, considering they only have the 1 cap, does make sense for them. All right, we do see a push, looks like, from Storm God. Let's see how Abby's going to counter. Abby's dropped about 50 to 60 supply underneath that. Just now teching to Tier 2, and has engaged some Pronass turrets himself. We do see just the 1 turret set up. So this is going to be, we basically have a selection of 40-ish defensors against 30, but Avi does have the second cap. Now, the Devastator is not a tremendously good ship against defensors. It has very little light weaponry. It's designed for killing bigger ships. So really, Avi is going to have to rely on his eggs, area damage ability, a subspace rupture, and a smaller contingent of defensors. We'll see how this works out for him. All right, we're going right into it as the defensors will engage each other. Now, typically in defensor battles, even small improvements in fleet supply can have a noticeable impact in the game as well as upgrades. Uh, so we'll see how this works out for Avi. The numbers are pretty tight. It's probably going to come down to any area damage that's known. Now we have a substrate structure over here. It is not hitting a lot of ships. The defensors are not impacted, so it looks like it's just pure defensor on defensor action, with the capital ships really not getting involved. Looks like Avi has decided to focus on the egg instead, trying to weaken that and get it weakened out, while the defensors continue to battle. But that is taking a toll on Avi's forces. His numbers are starting to drop here a bit, where Storm God's numbers remain fairly strong, fairly high. Here we go. We now see a substrate structure in the middle. This is going to start putting some damage on the board, but we see, and yep, this is what you'd expect. We are seeing a huge drop down in the defensor numbers now, but we can see these defensors in the area cloud are still taking a good amount of damage, and they really need to. That was a bit of a mistake on Sorgar's part to stay in there as long as he did. He really didn't need to stay in there and take that much damage. But ultimately, we have 30 defensors to almost nothing, as Stormgod now takes a dominant position into this opening. Avi is going to try to scare away the capital ship here with a devastator damage, but at the end of the day, he doesn't have much to contend these defensors, and I don't think he's going to be able to hold this position. Meanwhile, we see a more fortified position on the other side. You can see here that Phoenix continues to rainbow turret up. He's taken a strong defensive position to lock down this contingent, while Koi is pushing into the Ferris territory in the middle here. It looks like this is going to be a Visari grudge match, while the other two kind of sit and spectate. All right, we do see another subspace rupture has come out. While it does do some damage on these skirmishers, it's really better to use on the defensors, and these defensors have come out relatively unscathed. Now, Storm God's egg is having to run, as we expected, but it looks like it is going to survive. And now it's simply a question of, can Avi muster enough counter forces to deal with this defensor ball? And right now, the answer seems to be no. While Avi continues to trickle in units, Storm God is wisely just choosing to continuously kill defensors. The goal is to not let Avi rebuild any defensor squads. And I think this is a mistake on Avi's part. Avi really wants to pull these defensors back, kind of get a chance to build up some numbers here. Because right now, trickling them in like he is right here, they're just not getting a chance to do anything before getting killed. All right, we do see the defensors now starting to push onto the egg itself, starting to do damage. The egg is the one ship here that can really do any kind of damage to these defensors with that area of controllability. Once that's taken down, there's practically nothing here that can actually do any real work. Now, interesting enough, Storm God does decide to pull back. We are seeing a pullback. A bit surprising, I think. Perhaps he's just trying to regather with his capital ship. Let's see how that is panned out as we take a look at the numbers. So Avi's come out with the 18 defensors, and he's got 17 on the way. Meanwhile, Storm God has got clearly a much superior defensive fleet. So it really is just going to come down to can Avi leverage his second capital in a way that is able to get the job done. Let's take a look at Storm God. Looks like he continues to focus on the turrets for defense. And we do see some turrets set up here as well. A new capital on the way. The carrier is coming out, which makes sense. The only real weakness for these defensors right now is the area damage of the egg, as it's often called, the evacuator for the Visari. The carrier, its repair cloud will allow the defensors within it to heal up that area damage. So with this ship involved, these defensors will get a lot stronger in this next round. All right, we do see. It does look like Storm God is switching it up, potentially moving to Raiders. This makes sense when you have a dominant amount of defensors in the battle. Switching to Raiders, which, if they are not countered, will do a lot more damage against the capital ships and allow you to actually start taking some of these Visari capitals out. Avi, meanwhile, is getting his shield technology, which is a key upgrade to help him against the tickling and defensor damage. And does look like he's actually pushed a little bit into the Jiskin technology, so we may get some use of that later. Probably going to go ahead and push for phase raids. On the left side, we see Phoenix has already pushed into tier 3 technology, which, considering the stalemate they have, it's up. Makes sense. We now have a couple of coals, and it looks like we are starting to move into pirates. Yes, and we do see the pirates. We see the first pirate bay being set up here, likely some more to come up shortly. Although the lack of green planets, lack of primordials on this world, does present an issue in terms of lack of green or yellow exotics. That might be a concern point for the primacy player here. We do see some of those primacy key techs coming online. The pirate base we already discussed, and then we now see the war chest. This is a great tech to go on the offensive, do some siege damage, and get paid for it at the same time. So we do see the first battle here on the left side of the map as Phoenix digs into Koi's position. Now, Koi has not been idle in defense. We see a full 5 beam platforms here and 3 Goths. This is a nasty trap for some of these capitals. And Phoenix is going to have to be careful. He's got a very nice fleet here, but this is a lot of defense. Let's take a look. Now Koi's fleet supply is significantly lower than Phoenix's, so Phoenix may be able to just bully this position. But he is going to have to be careful. This Cole is taking heavy damage, and if he's not able to run it forward, those Gauss are going to get some last licks in, and he may lose this ship. It's going to be close, and there it is. Phoenix has severely underestimated the raw power of this Gauss fleet. Now, Koi's ships are taking damage. His capitals are starting to get beat up as well. But, yep, Phoenix has finally realized that this is just too strong of a force to be dealing with and decides wisely to pull back. So Koi has actually moved into Tier 2 Civil, is one of the only players really trying some economic strats here. With the success of his defenses, it's giving him some breathing room to try and build up, get a little greed in, and build up for the later mid-game. Back on the right side, we see another round of battling here. Storm God has built up to nigh 100 defensors, and we now see a shift into contracts as well. So it looks like while he had considered some Raider aggression, he has instead shifted to contracts for NT capital damage, which makes plenty of sense. Avi, meanwhile, Avi has not been idle in boosting up his fleet supply and has gotten to a good 70 defensors. But at the end of the day, Storm God has now taken the middle Ferris world, has now has a solid defensor advantage, and has now been building contracts to be a counter to Avi's forces. Avi is in a bit of trouble here. Now, looking at this defensive position, we do see a single Gauss and a good amount of defensors, but against over 100 defensor squads, these won't last too long, especially with a carrier, the Visari carrier here to help support and heal these units back up. All right, the blitz begins as the swarms begin, as the two sides will now throw down their area effects in the middle. And I think this is going to come down. All right, we do see the Visari carrier is right here in the middle. This repair cloud is going to be constantly healing these defensors in the middle, and I think that may have a sizable advantage. Although, as I say that, Avi has taken an early push in this fight. He has already dropped down these defensor numbers extremely quickly, but it looks like that may have been a short-lived. As the area effect starts to take its hit, Avi is losing his defensors quickly, while Storm God's defensors, with the healing cloud ability, is basically staying unscathed. And as you saw, as the two dueled in the AoE battle there, Storm God came out with a definitive victory. So That's something for you Visari players to take important note of. The carrier's repair cloud in these defensor-on-defensor fights, especially with area damage taking place, is irreplaceable. Uh, the ability to keep your units healed while the enemy takes area damage. We saw the impact. Avi went from almost an equal amount of ships to almost being wiped out in terms of his defensive forces. Back on the left side, as the action heats up, it looks like Phoenix got a little bit out of position there with the Zakin, but it will make it out, at least in the short term. But it is going to be heading into a group of creeps here on the fair side. We'll have to see if it's able to hold out. Now, yeah, it looks like Phoenix has got himself in a little bit of trouble here, but is able to pull out. That said, he is having to run past these creeps. His ships are heavily damaged. This Akin may actually be in some serious trouble if these creeps happen to change direction. Phoenix is continuing to push on his tier 3 tech, getting Savage Thrill. Do we have Hoshinko's line? So we do not have Hoshinko's, or we don't have Human Doctrine yet. So as good as Savage Thrill is, I would say this is a bit of a mistake. Without the good healing from the Hoshinko's and the repair bays, this fleet's in trouble. These capital ships do not have a lot. Yep, there's no repair droids down here either. If Koi decides to push this, I don't think Phoenix is in a good position to keep some of his capitals in line. We do see a bit of Gauss here, but this is not an overwhelming amount of defense. We'll see what Koi is able to do with this. Let's take a quick look back on the other side. On the right side, we continue to see Storm God pushing on Abby's world here. This Defensor and now Conrack force right now seems to be unstoppable to Abby's forces. Storm God has moved into tier 3 tech and is potentially shifting over here to Destructors to add some siege power into his fleet. Does have tier 2 Empire as well. We do see a focus more on defense for Storm God here with a Pronost influence. Meanwhile, Avi has continued a decent amount of defensors back and now does have a carrier of his own online, which will be a big help to him in this next fight. No real change on the influence track here, and Avi's tech continues to be somewhat weak comparatively. I think Avi's a bit behind in this engagement. We'll see how this goes. All right, looks like Storm God has kind of come into this cloud here, not bringing his own defensors. I don't know if he's playing. Yep, looks like he is playing to pull back from this, at least for now. I think Storm God just got a little ahead of himself. He just tried to decide to split his fleet, see if he could do 2 hits at once. But again, he's still in a dominant position here. He looks like he'll be able to siege this world. I don't know if Avi is going to be able to hold out on that. We're going to stay on this as the left side's engagement has kind of subsided. Now, it looks like Storm God has kind of stalled out on defensive production in favor of Conrax, and this may actually come back to bite him. Avi has continued to focus on defensors, and Storm God just does not have any counters to defensors still in his fleet. Ultimately, this is a strategic mistake. Storm God has, while he is focused on Conrax and has a great counter to some of these capital ships, he has nothing that can beat the defensors. And so these defensors are just going to whittle down on the enemy defensor, Conrax, and then eventually take out the capital ship itself. Now, one thing Storm God might do here, yes, he might start shifting his Conrax towards hitting these capital ships. I don't know if he's going to pull back in full or if he's going to try and snipe a couple of these ships, but it looks like he is going in full retreat. Steadily losing Conrax as this battle takes place, giving Avi a little bit of breathing room. Avi at 580 fleet supply, whereas Storm God has actually dropped down to 550. So Avi has been able to turn the momentum a bit around on this battle as this back and forth action continues. But let's note, economically speaking, Storm God is still in the stronger position. He has his tier 2 Empire tech. Looks like he has it online, but we have not really seen any. We're not seeing a whole lot of use from it yet. But Avi has not even gotten to tier 2 at all. Further, Storm God still has the economic advantage with more planets, with the Ferris world that's the better planet. So Avi, while he has changed the momentum a bit, he does have work to do to really swing this back on his side. All right, Avi is decided to engage. He does have the carrier on the run here. Uh, Now, we do see a new surge of defensors from Storm God, but he's only made it up to 45 versus 73 defensors. That is not enough to counteract them. Uh, but it looks like the carrier is going to get away. These Conracks, are they going to engage? We do see the area clouds come out. The Conracks do look like they are going to start engaging, and I believe they're going to try and snipe that carrier. Now, Storm God does have reinforcing ships right here, and he is going to produce defensors to try and match this fleet. So while Avi has the initial advantage in this fight, he may be forced to retreat as the pressure of this production starts to overwhelm. We'll see. All right, Avi is continuing the pressure. He is focusing mostly on the straggling Conracks, taking out whatever defensors he can. Pretty much any light ship that he is able to get his defensors on, he is going to work on. Now, Storm God has decided to keep this carry. He has not run it away, and that may prove to bite him, as if these defensors start getting too close, they still have a chance to snipe this ship out. Just a quick look back on the left side here. We see Phoenix is focusing primarily on, looks like, pirate buildup. Still with only the one pirate vessel. Just haven't gotten enough yellow exotics to do that any further. We'll continue to watch the action on the right side here. All right. This carrier is still under assault from some of the bombers here, as it looks like Storm God is in full retreat. His egg is taking heavy damage here. Losing the egg would be a big hit for the lack of the AoE, and yes, it is going to go down. Avi has now gotten over to 100 defensors, and once you get into that 100 range, defensors really start to become quite scary. They go from minor annoyances to now they can start really taking out capital ships. All right, on the left side, we have a real brawl, or I suppose I'm actually going to slow this down just a bit so we can kind of appreciate, one of these battles in full. Avi is focusing on the Mazda here, trying to snipe it out. Phoenix is wisely pulling it back. We have a large number of Guardians here. It looks like Koi's managed to start sneaking away some of the pirate vessels using his Rapture Dominates. It has a large contingency of Raptures here. I think this is a fight that Phoenix is going to want to run from. We have relatively equal fleet supply, but Koi is offering a kind of a stronger initial fleet here with a larger group of capitals. Phoenix continues to not have Hoshinko support, whereas Koi has his Guardians now online. So ultimately, Phoenix just does not have the sustainability he needs to maintain this battle. Koi is able to utilize these pirate ships as cannon fodder, because as soon as they die, he just dominates a new one. His Guardians keep his capitals alive, and meanwhile, every bit of damage that Phoenix takes, he deals without the use of healing or his Hoshinkos. All right, Avi has decided to take the fight back over to Storm God, and we can see the progression continuing here. So Storm God still has maintained a large amount of assailants and defenders, but he has lost all of his capital ships. We're not seeing anything on the influence side that's really going to help him out either. While Avi doesn't have quite as much fleet supply, the key takeaway here is he still has capitals, he has his defensors. And again, this amount of defensors, nothing that Storm God currently possesses is able to counter these. He really needs his own defensors, he needs AoE, or potentially even a tech switch into oppressors, which do have their own PD capabilities, any missiles, any strike craft capability, and are tanky enough to actually help against defensors. But you still need a good contingent of them, and I don't know what Storm God's going to be able to do to hold off on these defensors long term. All right. We are back in action here as it looks like Koi may have bitten off a little bit too much of his chew. The Radiant here is taking heavy damage, but it's not taking too much in the way of missiles. Is Koi going to be able to pull this out? It's going to come down to the next. He has to pull out now in the next few seconds. The missiles are starting to fire. Koi is trying to jump out. It's going to be down to the wire here. Koi takes a Gauss hit at the last moment, and he tries to jump out, and it is just not enough. Let's go ahead and go back to regular speed here. All right, we see in this world, the current matchup, we do have Phoenix has taken a pretty solid supply lead, especially with the loss of that ship. He does continue to throw in more pirates from his vessel, from his little base down here, and continue to reinforce with those. So Koi may have bitten off a little bit too much he can chew. We'll have to see. All right, Koi is trying to go eye for eye here and trying to take out the Aachen, but Phoenix is smartly running this Aachen back. Phoenix, meanwhile, has focused a little bit on the more defensive side and has utilized the unassailable fortress, making this world much harder to take out. He is now focusing his large pirate fleet on Koi's capital ships. Koi is using the taunt ability of the Radiances to try and split the damage between these two ships, preventing either one of them from dying. So far, so good, but he has to get out of here quickly. That was a nice clutch taunt by Koi, ensuring that his other Radiants didn't get sniped out. But ultimately here, the forces continue to pile in, and this is a large fleet supply advantage that Koi has to respect. So let's see how Koi is playing to counter. We do see two tier technologies here, more general upgrades for Koi. Influence-wise, Koi is also pushing on the Pernas side a bit more. And fleet supply-wise, we are seeing a large contingent of Raptures and Radiances. This is becoming kind of a theme against TEC players, with a large contingent of Guardians, and of course the stolen Corsair ships that Koi has managed to grab. All right, the battle heats up and continues as these forces clash. Now, let's reminder, this asteroid is still heavily defended. Phoenix took a bloody nose when he tried to engage this last time. But it looks like he's going a little smarter this time. He has pulled his Aachen to the side, and he has no capital ships in range of those Gauss. But again, this fortified position from Koi is still just too strong to take. Now, what Phoenix may try to do here, and it looks like, yes, he's trying to shave off into the middle area, using some of those pirate pillagers that he has to start working and taking out Koi's ship here. It looks like Koi may actually get some help here from the creeps. He did not actually kill all those ships, and that might turn into a little bit of a defense force for him. I don't know if Phoenix is going to be able to take this world, but Phoenix may at least try to colonize this world away from Koi's defensive position. We'll see how that works out. Meanwhile, on the right side, once again, our Visari players are bursting into action. It's important to note here that Avi does have a Visari Overseer present here. That ship, which is often not seen too often, so for those who don't know, this provides a damage reduction aura to pretty much everything in range. In large-scale battles, this can actually be a significant ship in the battle. But when you're dealing with nigh 100 defensors versus a smattering of them, it's not going to do that much. So we continue to see this back and forth here. While Avi was able to take advantage for a bit, it looks like Storm God was able to leverage that superior economy that he had been rocking for a while, and has built up a new superior force of defensors that he is able to use to beat. Oh no, I apologize. It looks like actually Avi had pulled off the bulk majority of his defensors to help Koi, but Storm God's going to make him pay for that. Now, Avi has managed to secure the middle worlds here, including that Ferris world from Storm God. This was a nice switch for Avi. And if he's able to hold it, that'll shift the economic advantage back to his side. But I have a feeling Storm God is going to punish him for this pull off to the left. So we'll see if Storm God is able to take that Ferris world or if Avi can hold it. Yusu Koi is making a possible shift into Tier 3 military. Avi has also gotten to Tier 3, but once again, we're not seeing a lot of the Tier 3 tech utilized. No real change on the influence side here. East is now shifting over to some Garda. No real change in the influence there. And Storm God is kept comfortably in the Tier 3 range, but again, we're seeing a lot of tech focus, but we're not seeing even some of these basic techs here. It's surprising to see so many of those techs going to waste in these very large fights, especially defensor on defensor. Any kind of advantage to weapon damage, to regeneration, to armor, all of those start to matter as the battles continue. Now, it looks like Avi here is kind of in the same position he put Storm God in just a few minutes ago. With 100 plus defensors, with no real counter at the moment, Avi has lost the ability to kind of hold out against these defensors, and we see Storm God continuing to push on that territory. Meanwhile, it looks like, and I think this is a nice play here from Storm God. Storm God realized that his Conracks were just not doing much in these Visarian battles. It's too much about the defensors. The Conracks just really don't have a chance to do anything. So instead, he's pulled over his contingent of Conracks to help his ally. These Conracks will be significantly more effective in helping to defend or push on the left lane than they would be in these large defensor battles. All right, we do see now. Interesting. Storm God is deciding to push this entire fleet further south. He's not keeping a siege craft to actually take out this asteroid. I think I get the push on the ice, but that may be a problem. You really don't want to leave supply lines open for your enemy to throw shenanigans when you're in these tight fights. All right, the battle rages on. Now, currently it's 100 to 67 defensors, but we do have a carrier with defense with repair cloud that can have a significant impact in the battle here. There is no AoE to deal with, so it's purely the numbers and the effects of this healing that are going to impact the overall battle here. All right, the repair cloud is now online. The 100 to 60, this is going to have an impact, but I don't think it's going to be enough. With a 40 fleet supply advantage, it's likely here that Storm God's defensors are going to rip into this swarm and kill the red swarm here. But we're going to see them live here as the numbers continue to drop down. Numbers are holding decently steady for the moment, but I have a suspicion here that in just a moment's time, we're going to start seeing these numbers drop quite significantly. Yep, it looks like Avi's forces are now in retreat, and oh no, Avi is actually trying to switch around play. He is pulled the enemy forces into a new AoE egg, and then combine it with his own healing. That's a nice play, but isn't enough. It does look like that AoE was enough to significantly weaken. And with that, wow, what a wonderful play by Avi. For you Visari players out here, that was a play to watch. So what did we just see? Avi engaged in a superior number of defensors, using his carrier to try and keep them alive as best as he could. He then, while that was going on, brought his egg to bear. The defensors pull back because Avi's forces are losing, and it appears at the time that Phoenix is going to wipe them all out. But as he does so, the egg produces an AoE effect in this area. Because Storm God's forces have been constantly fighting, they're all beat up. Avi's remaining ships are all healed up from the carrier. And so the AoE does its job, and well, we saw the result. Excellent tactical positioning from Avi. Literally might have been a game-saving move as we continue into this match. All right, so with some battles played, and it looks like on the left side we've kind of calmed down a bit. Let's see how our various players are looking. All right, we have Storm God with near 700 supply, still maintaining his counteraxe on the left, with now down to about 70 defensors. Tech-wise, we do see going into the higher tiers of supply tech, and no real change on the sides there. Avi is now finally getting some of his tier 3s, some of his key tier 3s unlocked. No real change on the influence side. Avi's now got over near 175 defensors with an overseer, with a couple of carriers. Yeah, Avi has a pretty dominant fleet here as we continue this engagement. All right, now we'll see if the tables return. We do have now both sides have carriers for healing, but the defensor numbers right now are just too little. These defensor have no match against this swarm, and this is just going to be throwaway money for Stormgod here. He is going to lose pretty much all these defensors, and if he is not careful, he may lose this carrier as well. 100 defensors are no joke. Even with the Vistari defense, even with Vistari regeneration, that is a lot of defensors. And I think what we're going to see here is, yeah, it looks like Stormgod is starting to collapse under the weight of defensors here. That said, he did get a shield burst online. Is that going to be just enough to let? No, he's not going to get a chance, and that ship is going to get taken. Stormgod is in real trouble here, and it looks like Team Panda recognizes this, and they are starting to make a push on the left side, hopefully to do some damage while they try to stabilize from Avi's advance. Now we do see it looks like Phoenix is looking pretty good with 1,300 fleet supply, a huge contingent of pirate forces, and a decent smattering of Krosevs as well to help with siege operations. So this is a pretty respectable fleet for Phoenix's side. That's going against just a 1,200 fleet supply from Koi. Koi has introduced some Halcyon carriers into the mix, and then continue to build up his Radiant ships. Now, the Halcyon carrier is useful for a couple of different notions. Obviously, the strike craft are always useful. Adds a nice bit of roundabout damage. I'm actually going to slow this down a bit. Let's watch this battle unfold. But the other thing that the Halcyon is particularly useful for, as we go to one here, is the telekinetic push. So one of Advent's greatest weaknesses is their point defense, or their anti-missile capabilities. And the Halcyon tends to augment that because the telekinetic push can literally push missiles away. So when you're dealing with this large amount of pirate corsairs that can bring a good amount of missile damage quickly, the telekinetic push from 3 Halcyons can basically nigh infinitely push those missiles away. You just saw now a big push away of those missiles and destroy them. And this is a very effective point defense strategy for the Advent. You will see a lot of late game Advent introduce a 3 or even 4 Halcyon play into their mix just for the missile defense. And of course, all the strike craft and everything else is always good too. All right, Phoenix is in real trouble here. Although his allies try to come in with the Conrax to try to put some damage, the Conrax are just not able to do that much with the Halcyon telekinetic push here in operation. And it looks like that is going to be it. Koi manages to hold off that early aggression, defeating Phoenix's forces. Meanwhile, Avi, who looked real shaky in the early game, it looked like Stormgod took a real real solid push, but ultimately, with that superior tactical positioning, was able to win the day. The last note I'll give about this game, because I think it's a good lesson to for, again, you Visari players out there. I think the big mistake, the key mistake that was made in this game, was Storm God shifted from defensors into Conrads. We saw in those early battles that Storm God had Avi on the ropes. He had killed his defensor squad. He had the carrier to support his own defensors. Avi had a less eco. At that point, realistically, without some intervention, Storm God had that game likely in the bag. But the mistake was, by pulling off the defensor production and focusing on Conrads, it gave Avi a chance to equalize and even go above the defensor swarm. And in defensor battles, it's all about those numbers. Avi was able to then counter Storm God's fleet, and at that point, once he did so, while there was some back and forth, Avi continued to showcase higher level play and ultimately help win the day. So with that in mind, we now have this. The Suneaters have taken their second victory and have won the round in this round of this best of three, completing their second round match, and then we'll move on into the next round. We wish them luck as we move into third round coverage here in the upcoming weeks. Once again, I am Karaslegacy, your caster for today. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.